Hi, Scarlet Marvel here, and this year's Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month is coming to an end. But I couldn't let the month pass by without continuing my Marvel History series by diving into the history of Marvel's Asian and Pacific Island superheroes. In recent years, some of these heroes have made big splashes in pop culture, such as Shang-Chi and Miss Marvel. But many more remain relatively unknown and deserve a chance to shine. So join me as we go over the complex and fascinating history of Marvel's Asian and Pacific Island superheroes. But before we get started, I want to know who your favorite Asian and Pacific Island superhero is. Let me know in the comments down below. Due to American comic books getting their start around World War II, most early Asian comic characters were caricatured Japanese antagonists. This was an example of the yellow peril trope, which is when fictional Asian characters were portrayed as dangers to the Western world. This trope defined most of comics' Asian representation for many years. In 1956, Marvel's predecessor, Atlas, introduced their first Asian hero, Chinese-American secret agent Jimmy Woo, the protagonist of the short-lived Yellow Claw series, as one of comics' earliest positive Asian portrayals. But his series, unfortunately, conformed to the yellow peril trope through its titular villain, Yellow Claw. In Marvel's Silver Age, Asian representation mostly stuck to the yellow peril trope, with well-known antagonists, such as Iron Man's Chinese nemesis, the Mandarin. Some of these villains even became heroes later in Marvel's history, including the Chinese radioactive man and Tibetan sorcerer Kalu. Marvel's Mystical Corner introduced some of their first heroic Asian portrayals, through Doctor Strange's mentor, the Ancient One, a powerful Tibetan sorcerer, and Strange's servant, Chinese martial artist Wong. These characters were stereotypical, following the magical Asian and master martial artist tropes, but they were at least a step forward beyond the purely villainous portrayals. One of the most progressive examples of Asian representation in this decade was Jim Morita, a Japanese-American World War II hero who appeared in a few issues of Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos as one of comics' first positive portrayals of an Asian character in World War II. Additionally, Jimmy Woo returned in Nick Fury's S.H.I.E.L.D. stories, where he joined the spy organization to defeat Yellow Claw once more. Marvel greatly increased their Asian representation in the 1970s by introducing their first true Asian superheroes, but still mostly presented them in stereotypical ways. The X-Men introduced Japanese superhero Sunfire, who became the team's first Asian member, after initially fighting them due to his anger at Americans for the negative effects of the Hiroshima bombing. His sympathetic portrayal was incredibly progressive for exposing the US's role in the atrocities of World War II from a Japanese perspective. The Avengers introduced Vietnamese martial artist and empath Mantis as their first Asian member. Her origin was tied to negative stereotypes of women during the Vietnam War, but she quickly grew beyond this, even gaining cosmic abilities as the central character of the Celestial Madonna storyline. In 1973, Marvel introduced Chinese martial arts hero Shang-Chi, the master of Kung Fu, as part of the company's expansion into new genres. His immediate success allowed him to star in his own series titled Master of Kung Fu, as Marvel's first Asian-led comic book series. This was big for Asian representation. But Shang-Chi and his series were full of stereotypes, including the master martial artist and yellow peril tropes, with Shang-Chi's main antagonist being Fu Manchu, a harmfully stereotypical Chinese villain from old literature. Shang-Chi's series introduced additional Chinese heroes, such as martial artist Shen Kui, aka the Cat, and secret agent Leiko Wu. Shang-Chi's success caused Marvel to expand their Kung Fu corner, introducing new East Asian heroes, like Sons of the Tiger member Lin Sun, martial artist Lotus Shinchuko, and one half of the Daughters of the Dragon, Colleen Wing. Lin Sun with the Sons of the Tiger starred in a solo feature in Deadly Hands of Kung Fu, while Colleen Wing featured as a major supporting character in Iron Fist. Late in the decade, Marvel expanded with new team comics, including The Invaders, that introduced Japanese-American World War II hero Gwen Isabuki, aka Golden Girl, and The Eternals, that introduced Ajak, Kingo, and Gilgamesh, godlike heroes tied to Siberian, Japanese, and Iraqi myths, respectively. This decade also introduced the Silver Samurai, a Japanese villain who eventually reformed as a hero and sometimes ally of Wolverine and the X-Men. Outside of comics, the Japanese toy company produced a live-action Spider-Man show in 1978, with main character Takuya Yamashiro, the Japanese Spider-Man, aka Supaidaman. He became a fan favorite, returning in various Spider-Man comics and other media during the 21st century. In the 1980s, Marvel continued to expand and improve their Asian representation, although at a slower pace than before due to the collapse of Marvel's Kung Fu Corner. Early in the decade, Marvel introduced Japanese hero Dragon Lord, Chinese mutant Collective Man, and most notably, Marvel's first Asian team leader, Vietnamese telepath Karma, who became leader of the New Mutants. Marvel also introduced their first Middle Eastern superheroes, the Arabian Knight from Saudi Arabia, and Sabra from Israel. In 1983, Shang-Chi's Master of Kung Fu series came to an end, with issue number 125, beginning a 10-year period without any Asian-led Marvel comic series. X-Men comics became the main place for new Asian heroes, with Korean mutant Chance appearing in Fallen Angels, Japanese-American technokinetic WizKid appearing in Exterminators, and most prominently, Chinese-American pyrotechnic mutant Jubilee made her debut in X-Men, quickly becoming a major part of the series. Wolverine comics were particularly noteworthy, as the character's strong connection to Japan was revealed, with the nation becoming a major setting for his series. Japanese ninjas Yukio and Amiko Kobayashi, as well as Singaporean crime lord Tiger were introduced as heroic figures tied to Wolverine. Late in the decade, Gilgamesh became the second Asian member of the Avengers, while Vietnamese martial artist Bengal and Chinese-Canadian siblings Auric and Silver were introduced in Daredevil and Alpha Flight, respectively. By the 1990s, Asian heroes had become more common and more realistic, but stereotype portrayals were still abundant, and Asian heroes were mostly kept in supporting or minor roles. The 90s mostly remained the same, but showed hints at positive changes to come, even expanding Marvel's Asian diversity with their first South Asian heroes. The X-Men remained the main place for Asian representation, with Jubilee and Japanese telepath Kwanin joining the team. Kwanin was subject to one of Marvel's most controversial storylines, when her body was swapped with Betsy Braddock's, a white woman. Betsy became one of Marvel's most popular mutants as Psylocke, while Kwanin was unceremoniously killed off, meaning one of Marvel's most well-known Asian characters was really a white woman in a Japanese woman's body. The X-Men comics also introduced Marvel's first Pacific Island hero, Samoan mutant Mondo. The New Warriors were another team that introduced several Asian members, including Cambodian-American Dark Force manipulator Silhouette, Japanese-American tech hero Turbo, and time-traveling Indian mutant Timeslip. Other Asian heroes introduced across Marvel's many team books included Vesper, Indian leader of Marvel UK's Genetics, Amy Chen, Vietnamese mercenary from Silver Sable's Wild Pack, Cybermancer, a tech hero from Hong Kong introduced in ForceWorks, and Jolt, an electrokinetic Japanese-American member of the Thunderbolts. This decade also introduced Big Hero 6, Japan's signature superhero team, in their own miniseries alongside Sunfire. Shang-Chi starred in his own solo feature as part of Journey into Mystery. Marvel's most significant achievements of the decade for Asian representation came in their 2099 line that explored a possible future for Marvel's universe. Here, Ghost Rider 2099, a Japanese-American hero, starred in his own series, becoming Marvel's second Asian hero to have their own series. Additionally, X-Men 2099 prominently featured Indian mutant Cerebra and Vietnamese-American mutant Desert Ghost as leaders of the titular team, also introducing Mean Streak, an Asian-American team member. This decade featured Marvel's first major expansions outside of comics. But Asian heroes were mostly ignored, with the exception of Jubilee, who starred as a member of the titular team in X-Men: The Animated Series. In the 2000s, Marvel greatly improved their Asian representation, bringing past heroes back to the spotlight, and introducing a wider and more diverse group of Asian heroes than ever before, complete with nuanced portrayals, leadership positions, and several solo comics. Once again, X-Men comics remained a prominent corner for Asian representation, with new team members including Karma, and new heroes, Chinese twins Zorn and Zorn, Indians Thunderbird and Omega Sentinel, and Japanese-American Armor. Other heroes made their debuts as X-Men trainees, including Indian mutant Indra, Marvel's first Afghan hero, Dust, and Japanese-American mutant Surge, who became leader of the young, new X-Men team. X-Men comics also introduced Chinese-American Sway, Chinese-Australian Red Lotus, Japanese sister of Sunfire, Sunpyre, and most notably, Japanese-Canadian son of Wolverine, Daken, who played a big role in Marvel's Dark Reign crossover event. X-Men comics also introduced new Pacific Island heroes, Kiwi Black, the Maori half-brother of Nightcrawler, and Loa, a Hawaiian mutant who's become Marvel's most well-known Pacific Island hero, having connections to the X-Men, Avengers, and Defenders. Two Asian mutants, Jubilee and Daken, even starred in their own solo series. Other Asian heroes also had their own solo series, including Shang-Chi and new hero, Spider-Man India. Colleen Wing co-starred alongside Misty Knight in the Daughters of the Dragon series, and as co-leaders of the Heroes for Hire in the self-titled team series. Mantis was the focal character of the Avengers Celestial Quest series, and became a core member of the new Guardians of the Galaxy. Several other team comics featured Asian heroes, with Thunderbolts introducing Japanese hero Goldfire and welcoming Radioactive Man onto the team. Alpha Flight introducing Asian-Canadian Zuza Ya as the second Puck. MI-13 introducing Marvel's first Pakistani hero, Faiza Hussein, aka Excalibur. And Avengers spin-offs, The Order and Avengers Academy, respectively introducing Japanese-American hero Calamity and Marvel's first Indonesian hero, Komodo. A couple teams even featured Asian heroes in rare leadership roles, with new hero Japanese-American witch Nico Minoru leading the Runaways, and Jimmy Woo returning to lead the Agents of Atlas, both in their own comic series. Big Hero 6 also returned in their own comic series, and new, fully Asian superhero teams were introduced, including the Filipino Triumph Division, and the Chinese People's Defense. Other Asian heroes introduced throughout the decade include Marvel's first Bangladeshi hero, Enigma, Korean-American S.H.I.E.L.D. agent Jake O, Marvel's first Palestinian hero, the Second Arabian Night, Japanese Daredevil ally, Master Aizo, Japanese-American anti-hero, Yuri Watanabe, aka Wraith, and most significantly, Korean-American super genius, Amadeus Cho, who became allies with Hulk and Hercules before joining the Avengers. Even more Asian heroes were introduced through Marvel's multiverse. Spider-Girl's MC2 universe introduced Chinese-American mutant Push, and the Ultimate Marvel universe introduced a half-Asian version of Janet Van Dyne, aka the Wasp, as well as her Syrian successor, Red Wasp, and Monica Chang, a Chinese-American Black Widow. Outside of comics, Asian heroes were still mostly ignored, despite Marvel's big expansion into Hollywood, with Jubilee appearing as a minor supporting character in the X-Men Evolution cartoon, and as a cameo in the first two X-Men movies. By the 2010s, positive depictions of Asian heroes could be found throughout Marvel Comics. But there were still few leading their own comics, or being featured in other media. Luckily, the 2010s significantly improved upon this in some big ways. Yet again, X-Men comics remain a prominent place for Asian representation, with new Indian technopath Trinary joining the team. Other Asian characters introduced in X-Men comics included Japanese Zero, Chinese Sprite, Asian Nature Girl, Indian Sapna, and half-Korean Hindsight. Additionally, this decade finally reversed the controversial body swap storyline by returning Kwannon and Betsy Braddock to their original bodies, with Kwannon taking on the hero title of Psylocke. During this decade, the Inhumans rose to prominence as counterparts to the X-Men, with several new Asian Inhumans being introduced, including Asian Americans Ren Kimura and Haichi, Indian Grid, and Chinese pressure manipulator Iso, who briefly led Earth's Inhumans. New Japanese-American Inhuman Kid Kaiju became the central character of the Monsters Unleashed crossover event and series of the same name, with his monster creation powers inspired by Japanese kaiju. The most impactful new Inhuman was Pakistani-American hero Kamala Khan, aka Miss Marvel, who became Marvel's first South Asian hero to star in her own comic series. Miss Marvel gained near-instant success as a relatable teen hero for the modern comic reader, with her first issue receiving 6 reprints, a rare feat for even the most popular superheroes. As such, Miss Marvel quickly became a major part of the Marvel Universe, even leading her own superhero team, the Champions. Her comic also introduced another Pakistani hero, Red Dagger. The 2010s had a large focus on young heroes, with many young Asian heroes being introduced, including radioactive Japanese-American Hazmat, Japanese singer-hero Radiance, Japanese-American Squirrel Girl ally Koi Boy, Indian Champions member Pinpoint, and Wasp allies Chinese Ying Liu, and Indian-American Priya Agarwal. Other new young Asian heroes, like Miss Marvel, could be classified as legacy heroes, meaning they took up an already existing mantle. Included in this are Indian-American Giant Man successor Raz Malhotra, and Chinese-American Iron Patriot successor Tony Ho. Amadeus Cho followed the legacies of his two allies, briefly becoming the new Prince of Power, and later the Totally Awesome Hulk, starring in comic series under both mantles, before ultimately settling into his own heroic identity as Brawn. The Spider-Verse comics introduced Japanese-American Penny Parker, and more significantly, Korean-American Silk, who starred in her own series, and was revealed as the secret second person bitten by the spider that gave Peter Parker his powers. Marvel's Iron Fist Corner introduced heroes from the fictional Asian city Kunlun, such as the city's leader Sparrow, Fan Fei, the original Iron Fist, and Pei, a young monk who co-starred in the Immortal Iron Fist series, alongside Danny Rand. The Avengers featured more Asian heroes than ever before, with new members including Shang-Chi, Sunfire, Kalu, and Ms. Marvel. Late in the decade, Marvel focused on creating several new Asian heroes as protagonists, and prominent figures in the Marvel Universe. New Chinese heroes Arrow and Lin Li, the Sword Master, starred in their own series, and new Korean heroes White Fox, Luna Snow, and Crescent and Io featured in their own one-shot comics. Jimmy Woo returned to form and lead a new iteration of the Agents of Atlas, featuring an all-Asian roster that included Arrow, Brawn, Crescent and Io, Giant Man, Luna Snow, Shang-Chi, Silk, Swordmaster, White Fox, and new Filipino hero, Wave. This team starred in their own miniseries, featured Miss Marvel as a prominent ally, and introduced the Japanese hero, Protector. Other Asian heroes introduced in this decade included Japanese vampire Raizo Kodo, Chinese heroes Saber and Weather Witch, and Chinese-American shield agent Melinda May, who's inspired by her live-action counterpart. Additionally, Daken and Shang-Chi featured in their own solo comics, while Jubilee, Giant Man, Colleen Wing, and Nico Minoru starred in team-up comics. Outside of comics, Asian heroes finally began to appear in greater numbers, but mostly remained in supporting positions with few exceptions. In animation, Amadeus Cho and Ms. Marvel prominently featured in the Ultimate Spider-Man and Avengers Assemble cartoons, respectively. Additionally, Marvel teamed up with Disney to produce a Big Hero 6 movie and spin-off show, with the team reimagined as a multicultural American team that only had 2 Asian members. Sony's Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse featured Penny Parker in her animated cinematic debut. The Fox X-Men movies finally featured Asian heroes beyond cameos, with appearances from Yukio, Silver Samurai, Jubilee, Psylocke, and a Chinese version of Blink.
Hi, Wei.
Hi, Yukio.
MCU movies featured few Asian heroes, and only in minor roles, with Hogan, Jim Morita, Jimmy Woo, and most notably Wong making appearances. Additionally, alien heroes Drax and Mantis were portrayed by Asian actors. MCU shows are where Asian heroes truly shine, with a Chinese-American version of Quake and new Chinese-American hero Melinda May appearing as main characters in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Nico Minoru appeared as leader of the Runaways in their self-titled show, and Colleen Wing prominently featured in the Iron Fist series. Several non-Asian characters were also portrayed by Asian actors, including Elektra, Karnak, and Triton. By the 2020s, positive representation had finally become the norm for Asian heroes, and several have become major characters in the Marvel Universe. The 2020s have furthered this, improving Asian heroes' problematic pasts through clever reinventions and expansions to their stories. New Asian heroes continue to be introduced, including Japanese Spider-Verse hero Sakura Spider, Marvel's first Lebanese hero Amulet, Shang-Chi's Chinese-French sibling, Sister Dagger, and Korean Superman-like hero, Taeguki, who became the central character of Tiger Division, South Korea's signature superhero team, in their own miniseries. Asian heroes from past decades returned in big ways, such as Kwanin settling into the heroic mantle of Psylocke by joining several mutant teams, Mantis playing a pivotal role in the Empire crossover event, Lin Li, the Swordmaster, taking on the mantle of Iron Fist in his own series, and Shang-Chi returning for a comic run that brought him back to the forefront of the Marvel Universe by reinventing his once problematic mythos. Other Asian heroes that starred in their own series included Silk, Ms. Marvel, White Fox, and Spider-Man India. The all-Asian Agents of Atlas returned in another miniseries, and Ms. Marvel starred in the Champion series as the team's leader. Marvel also released 2 issues of Marvel's Voices Identity during Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month in 2021 and 2022, highlighting several of their Asian heroes. 2023 has shown some troubling signs for Asian representation, with no Marvel's Voices Identity issue releasing this year, Shang-Chi's series having come to an end after nearly 3 years, and most controversially, the death of Ms. Marvel occurring during this year's Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. Outside of comics, Asian heroes finally gained lead roles in MCU movies, with the monumental release of Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, marking Shang-Chi's cinematic debut. This movie focused on reinventing Shang-Chi's comic history to accurately represent Chinese culture, even fixing the problematic history of the Mandarin and Fu Manchu through the nuanced portrayal of the villain, Wen Wu. The movie also introduced Shang-Chi's friend Katie and sister Shai Ling as new Chinese heroes. Wong also appeared in the movie, before appearing in a large number of the MCU's Phase 4 projects, becoming a fan favorite. The Eternals movie featured a large number of Asian heroes, including Ajak, Gilgamesh, Kingo, and the protagonist, Cersei. Moving on to MCU shows, Miss Marvel made her live-action debut in her self-titled series that reinvented her origin to better fit the MCU's overall story, with the show also featuring Red Dagger. Other Phase 4 and 5 MCU heroes portrayed by Asian actors include Jimmy Woo, Mantis, and Drax. Looking forward, the future of Asian representation looks bright, with Miss Marvel set to make her cinematic debut later this year in The Marvels, and Shang-Chi 2 having been confirmed to be in development. In animation, Miss Marvel and Shang-Chi are set to star in Marvel Zombies. Nico Minoru is confirmed to appear in Spider-Man Freshman Year, and Jubilee will return in X-Men 97. Sony will also feature Asian heroes, with Spider-Man India making his cinematic debut in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and Silk being set to star in Sony's first Marvel show, currently titled Silk: Spider Society. Marvel's Asian heroes have come a long way from their early stereotypical and shallow portrayals. Nowadays, Asian heroes are powerhouses, protagonists, and leaders that accurately and cleverly represent their diverse cultures. Marvel has even introduced a few Pacific Island heroes from distinct backgrounds. However, there's still a lot of work to be done, as Marvel's Asian heroes cannot be allowed to fall back into obscurity. And there is a big need for more Pacific Island heroes to clearly represent the diversity of their community. Overall, I'm hopeful for the future of Marvel's Asian and Pacific Island superheroes, and I'm excited to follow all of their stories across comics, movies, shows, and wherever they show up next. Thanks for joining me for this video. As always, these history videos are a lot of fun to put together. And remember to let me know who your favorite Asian or Pacific Island superhero is down in the comments below. And if you want to see any other Marvel history content, check out the full playlist right up here. And otherwise, check out any of the Marvelous videos up on this channel. And have a great day. Bye!